Just like in a home, on a boat, standing water can end up being a source of bacteria, mold, mildew, odor, and lead to unhealthy conditions. Standing bilge water is considered the #1 cause of these things. The health and comfort of yourself and your crew is at stake if this issue is ignored. Hi, I'm Sailor Eric, and if you are interested in sailing topics such as boat maintenance, seamanship, or cruising adventures, you've come to the right place. Bilges, especially deeper ones, can be challenging to fully drain and clean. The pumps only draw down water to a certain point, never fully draining the bilge and leaving an inch or more of standing water. The presence of hardware, hoses, and other apparatus, combined with the whole shape and framing, result in hard-to-reach areas. We are often required to bend down and perform boat yoga, spending excessive time in uncomfortable crouched or bent over positions to either scrub or remove unwanted grime. In this episode, we are going to take on the challenge and clean this bilge properly, getting rid of the gunk laying at the lowest part of the vessel and leaving her dry to prevent the ongoing formation of bacteria, mold, and mildew. We will cover the tools, the prep, the cleaning with before and after photos. For day one, the tools I used included a sponge mop with a handle where the pieces screwed together to increase the handle length, a wall cleaning mop with a similar handle, a stiff bristle scrub brush like a deck brush, multiple buckets, a hand brush, antibacterial wipes, scotch pads, sponges, vinegar, household multi-use cleaning products, bleach, and water. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is lift that electric bilge pump out. We're looking at the top. It's that white apparatus on top of a piece of metal that has a line or a lanyard attached to it. We're ultimately going to pull this line and pull that out of there. In the end, I think I'm going to replace this lanyard as well. It is old and mildewy, and I think it's time to replace it. Here we go. Pull this guy straight out. The pump's base is screwed onto a heavy steel plate, which is why I'm groaning as I pull it up. I've secured the pump and hose to the galley stovetop handhold, and that's tied off. I'm using the lanyard to pull the inlet hose for the manual bilge pump out of the way. I use an extra control line and attach it to the existing lanyard with a bowline, and then tie it to my forward companionway ladder, again to keep it out of the way to allow me to clean more surface area in the bilge. Now we're going to clean the bottom of that bilge, and we're going to clean these pump inlet areas so that all the mold, mildew, bacteria is cleaned out of here and one less source of odor. To sop out the water, I'm first attempting to use a sponge mop with an extended handle. I actually purchased 2 inexpensive sponge mops with detachable handle pieces and used some extra pieces from one to extend the other. The idea is now to dip the sponge into the standing water and squeeze the water out into a bucket repeatedly until all the water is drawn out from the bottom of the bilge. It takes a few iterations to figure out how to position myself, the bucket, and the mop to best accomplish this in a sustainable way. Placing the bucket down on a ledge next to the holding tank in the bilge turned out to be the easiest place to facilitate wringing out the sponge into the bucket. However, this still took 20 to 30 minutes, and I couldn't help but wonder if there wasn't a better way. With the water completely out, another issue emerged, which is how to remove all the gunk and debris from the bottom of the bilge. But I choose to carry on with my planned next step of scrubbing the bilge surfaces with vinegar water and a scrub brush, pondering the problem in the interim. I poured some clean water into the bilge, then poured some vinegar, Then proceeded to spend the next 10 minutes scrubbing the surface areas with a stiff, bristled scrub brush on a long handle. After scrubbing, the need again arose to empty the standing water from the bottom of the bilge. This time I found a good seat to do this to avoid excessive bending over, which eased the strain on my back. This step took another 20 minutes or so, making me wonder if there wasn't a better way. The bilge surface is looking cleaner, but the problem of that debris at the bottom of the bilge is now something that needs to be addressed. But I hadn't come up with a good solution yet. So I decided to think about this problem some more while taking the opportunity to clean and wipe down the pump housing and hose it was attached to. Casing, I'm using basically Lysol disinfectant pads. They've been sitting in this boat for about a year. If you don't use it, you lose it. You know, at some point they just get to the point where you're just going to throw them away because they're not being used. And I'd rather try to use them on something. After about another 15 to 20 minutes of cleaning the pump and the hose, I hatched a plan. I attached a lanyard to the handle of a small bucket and lowered it down on its side. I then braced the back of that bucket, placing my sponge mop behind it, while sweeping debris with the stiff bristled scrub brush. Doing this, I was able to pull out about 50% or more of the debris. Not bad. But that took another 20 to 30 minutes, and something kept nagging me that there should be a better way to get the remaining debris out of the bottom of the bilge. Okay, you can see I've made some progress. Down here it's a lot cleaner than it was, and a lot of those particles are up. And I'm going to take a break and do something else here just to clear my head. So I'm going to replace one of these lines that is holding up these pump hoses. You can see me pulling out the old manual bilge pump lanyard caked with gunk, mildew, and rot that has formed on that line after multiple seasons of submersion in bilge water. By this point, I had already put a replacement line on the hose and will spend time adjusting it to correct the length. All right, so here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And these lines all go up here and are tied with bowlines to a bowline. And this bowline is the control line. All I have to do is replace these lines with new lines and tie them with bowlines. Well, that's just super easy peasy. So that's what I'm going to do. I used figure 8 knots as stopper knots to affix the new terminus lines to the base plate, and then proceeded to tie the opposite ends to the loop in the main control line with bowline knots. I've sped up the track so you can see the replacement of the first 2 of 4 terminus lines. So I've got all 4 lines connected to the bowline on the control line. And you can see that I've got new lines now on this plate. At the end of the first cleaning day, some definite progress was made, but getting the remaining debris out of the bilge still lingered as an outstanding issue, as well as how to remove some of that caked on grime on the walls of the bilge. Potential solutions emerged to these 2 questions as the week progressed. A shop vac with a long, stiff handle could work to pull the remaining debris, as well as make sopping up the standing water a much more efficient process. I don't know why I didn't think of a shop vac for pulling that standing water out sooner. I feel like I have to share this because I feel so elated right now. It was so easy to pick up all that debris with a shop vac. It just goes to show that a lot of times you just need to really think about what the right tool is for the job, and you come up with that tool and things go a lot smoother. You can see now that that debris is about off. There might be some little pieces or things I'll have to work on. Otherwise, I'm going to start scrubbing in there one more time. And I've got another tool that I'm going to try out to do that. To scrub the bilge walls, I needed to attach abrasive pads to a longer handle. I already had a Scotch scrub pad attachment for my drill, as well as a 90-degree drill bit. I put these two pieces together and then worked out how to lash those pieces to an unused 3-foot long length of teak molding. This should facilitate scrubbing the walls of the bilge. In scrubbing the walls of the bilge, I first poured some clean water into what was then a dry bilge. Then, some bleach was added. Next, I used this new, unique, creative scrubbing handle to try to scrub some of that grime off of the walls of the bilge. I was initially pleased with the ability to get that abrasive cleaning pad onto the walls and floor surfaces of the bilge. This is going to do some damage to help clean down there. I took a break for a moment and noted how dark and quiet it was in the boatyard warehouse. From mid-November through December, I suspect I'll be one of the few sailors showing up on Saturdays to get some extra work done. I'm not surprised as we approach the holidays. Using the long-handled mop designed for cleaning walls and ceilings was the next thing I wanted to try. It seemed like this cleaning tool would allow me to reach deeper into the bilge and hit more hard-to-reach areas. But then as the mop head absorbed excessive water, the weight of the water put too much strain on the head attachment point. The head snapped off the handle. It didn't break. It was just too much load for the attachment point. It took me a while to recover the attachment using a tool most boat owners must have. Some sort of claw or grabbing device on a long handle is a must in a sailor's inventory. It took a few tries because of the weight of that drenched mop head, but eventually I recovered it. After scrubbing and mopping, the shop vac was put back to work and the remnant water was evacuated from the bottom of the bilge without a large time investment or effort. You can see the amount of water I was able to pull up in 5 to 10 minutes, most of which was spent setting up the shop vac. I did notice an old metal washer that was still at the bottom of the bilge. I used a large magnet at the end of a telescoping handle to pull it out. This is another overlooked thing that should be part of a sailor's tool inventory. All right, so that is how things look after. We're going to start putting the pump and everything back down, and we'll show it one final time with everything back. But I'm much happier with the standing water that was in there out. This thing is now drying. Everything had some bleach and white vinegar wiped over it multiple times in the case of the white vinegar. So I think we've killed a lot of any bacteria and spores growing down there. So that's helpful. I feel a lot better about that than what it was for sure. It's never done. Boat work is never done, but it's a lot better. Next, after inspecting the bilge once more, I lowered the manual pump inlet hose into the bilge with the newly installed lanyard. Then the electric bilge pump was lowered. With the steel plate, this required a little more finesse and attention. The attached hose tended to back into the bilge alarm installed on the inner hull of the bilge. I had to navigate the hose around the alarm hardware in order for the pump to lower all the way down and flush to the floor of the bilge. And we've got a cleaner smelling and cleaner looking bilge for this 1978 Pearson 424 catch. Eliminating standing water inside a boat and keeping the bilge clean is a worthwhile chore if you want to keep bad boat odor, bacteria, mildew, and mold at bay. A healthy and comfortable living space is worth the effort. You likely will attract better crew. Please share your own bilge cleaning tips in the comments and consider liking and subscribing if you found this episode helpful. Thanks for watching.